Value is determined by a few factors. One, value is determined by the client. A client that has more buying power is more valuable than a client that doesn't. Geography is another thing. If you're pricing the same job for a client in the US, it's instantly more valuable than pricing the same thing for a client in Ghana. Come for me if you want. Exposure freaking pays. It pays a whole lot. The problem is people don't know how to spend that currency. If you're in Ghana, you don't get most of your clients sitting online. I guarantee you. Go to events, talk to people, introduce yourself. You either have time or you have money. You can't have both. When you're starting, when you're young, you have more time. The most abundant resource you have is time. You can't be broke and busy. It's like when you don't have money, you have time. So the question then becomes, okay, how do I use that time? Another quote I love so much: you can't direct a car that is not moving. So even if you're not clear, get going. There are two phases of everything. One is exploration, which is like, I don't know where I'm going. I'm trying to figure it out. And then exploitation is like, oh, okay, now I have some key things that I think could work. Let me get the most out of it. If I could swap life with anyone for a day, to be Gary Vaynerchuk, aka Gary V.
All right, guys. So welcome to the part 2 of this interview. This is the only time we are doing a part 2. I mean, look at the person here.
I'm happy. I wanted to be the most extraordinary guest you've had so far. So
yeah, part 2.
I'm glad we have it.
Anyways, if you've not watched the first part, I think you should watch it. We'll show it up somewhere here and then add a link, because we spoke about creativity, we spoke about business, spoke about Eldad's journey. And I mean, before we ended up, I was talking about leverage, right?
Yeah.
Negotiating in businesses and all that. And I have a question. When we're talking about negotiation in terms of value, right? Pricing. How does a creative value their work? Because one thing, maybe I might be wrong, one thing I've come to understand is there's no industry standard pricing, if I should put it, right? Like I was saying, someone might be better than me, but I can be charging more than them. And it can be that they don't know, like you were saying before, they don't know who they need to sell to or who can buy from them, if I should put it. So how does a creative value their work? That, okay, this client needs this and this and that. So, okay, maybe this should be this amount. Maybe, because I think 2 days ago, one guy texted me on Instagram, like he needs help with pricing a web project he got. And he told me what the project was like. And I was thinking about it. If I was taking this project, I don't know, just on top of my head, I know how much I would like to take. But I can't tell you that take this amount because I don't know your experience, I don't know how you work, I don't know how you're going to do that. So how does the creative value work?
Well, you just gave some. So I think, so let's talk about the practical and the principle, right? So the practical thing is like, value is determined by a few factors, right? One, value is determined by the client. That's the most important thing. A client that has more buying power is more valuable than a client that doesn't, and will value, in most cases, not all cases, in most cases will value the same thing, just much higher, right? Geography is another thing. If you're pricing the same job for a client in the US, it's instantly more valuable than pricing the same thing for a client in Ghana, right? So like a big part of value is dependent on who the buyer is,
okay,
right? So that's like thing number one. Thing number two, our value is like how painful the problem is, or how urgent, or you can say the impact of the problem, right?
Okay.
If a client is coming to you to do something that they think is crucial, like imagine a doctor doing a surgery. A surgery is way more expensive than somebody going in for like a regular check, right? So the importance or the size of the need that particular solution is fitting is also like a big determining factor. And sometimes how urgent it is, because people always pay express, right? So it's like, if they need this fast, then they have to pay a little more, right? So I think the buying power, and then you have the usual things also, like the scope of the work. And scope and time is usually tends to be like a one-to-one, like a direct correlation instead of an inverse correlation. And I'll explain. So the longer the project, the more time it takes, the more it costs. Because for most people, that's what they understand. But in the high valued segments of the market, whatever market you are in, the shorter it takes, the more it costs. Because there, what people value more is time, right? So those are some of the things, like, okay, who's paying, who's the client, what's the need, what's the problem, what's the actual scope, how many things you need, how long is it going to take, what's the people involved, right? You have to take account, it's like all those different things. So you can build a metrics based off of that, right? And then there is also your leverage, right? Are you an expert in the thing? How senior are you? Right? So that's the other side of the equation. Because if you've been doing something for like 10 years, you have a certain leverage when it comes to pricing, because you have experience, you can save the client a lot of trouble, you know. It means you have processes, and sometimes communication also determines the value for projects. How you talk about the project, how you present yourself, how you present your slides, how you present your proposals. It also creates a sense of perceived value, right? For the project. So I think I should have a video somewhere about this that I haven't published. I can't make that promise, but if God touches my heart, maybe I'll give it to you for it to publish. But I think it was I was doing a pricing class and I spoke about some of these things, but like those are some of the things, right? But again, that's a complex nitty-gritties. The core principle is this: a client who has the problem that, you know, your thing is a solution to, is in a market that values that problem, or in an industry that values that problem, right, is likely to pay you more.
Right.
So if you are trying to price a client, it's like, okay, does this person understand what I'm trying to do? Have they had any experience doing this thing before? Have they gotten any other similar clients? Have they solved this problem before? If it's your first time, then they are going to struggle, right? So to make it simple, that's the first thing. It's like clients that's problems that you're trying to solve, in industries that, you know, work for rich people, they pay better. That's a quote I heard from Alex and I like, right?
Yeah.
And the analogy I like to use at that is like the same bottle of water that costs like 2 cedis on the roadside costs like 7 at Kempinski. And you pay. Why? Because the kind of person that goes to Kempinski has already subscribed to a certain way of looking at the world. So even though it's the same product, it doesn't matter because they have the buying power, right? So they've self-selected, right? So the kind of client you serve is actually more important than what you do. And I think I hinted at this from the beginning of the conversation.
Yeah.
Like, so that's the first thing. The second is also like the market rates.
Yeah.
Right? What are other people charging in the market? Because best believe your client is going to shop around. And
how do you determine that? Because
look online and always be fishing for information. Unfortunately, we are not in an environment where people are willing to share.
Exactly.
So you have to be sly, right? And you have to get a sense of range.
Okay.
From different people and like scour the internet. It's like, this is why being part of certain networks help, because if you build close enough friendships and people trust you, they can tell you, hey, this is how much we're charging for this project. Like, this is how much you typically charge, right? I wish there was some public database of like how much we charge for everything, but there isn't. So you have to build this personal relationships to help you get that information, right? So, but if you're serving a client in the US, they typically know how much certain things cost, right? They will look around. So, and if you're dealing with a client who is not experienced, they're typically also using the information they find online. Right? So the clients you're serving, market rates are 2 key factors. And then the rest is so here's where it gets practical. You need to know your level of skill, how much leverage you have, and have a floor price. Okay. Which is, this is the minimum I can take for this project for it to be worth my time. Right. So regardless of everything I've said, if I talk to this client and their budget is 2,000 and my floor is 5,000, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Right? Now, calculating that floor is a whole science by itself. Right? But the most practical thing is like, how do I make this simple? Okay, cool.
If you want pen and paper, we can give you that.
Yeah, no, let's make this very practical. Okay. Like, I know pricing can be very challenging and you've heard of the theory. So my goal here is to make it as practical as possible. Yeah. So we've spoken about who you're charging, how much like they need a thing, can they pay, have they done this service before, are they used to this service, right? What's your leverage, how long have you been doing it, your testimonials, the evidence you have in the past, all those things also contribute to how much you price, right? But at the end of the day, you need to give them a figure, right? So if you are very early on, you do what we call the cost plus. How much is it going to cost you to do this thing, plus like a buffer or percentage for your profits. Now, if you're doing a service, then it's really hard to calculate how much it's going to cost you.
Exactly.
So here's how you think about it. How much does it cost to be you in a month? If it costs, and this is very practical, right? People don't talk about it. If it costs 7,500 or 8,000 cedis to be you, cumulatively in a month, you should be making less than 8,000 cedis. Because how are you going to eat? Right? So that's the first point. It's like, how much does it cost to be you? How much does it cost to live your life in a sustainable manner that you can continue to deliver work? So let's say it's 8,000. Okay. It costs 8,000 cedis to be you. How many projects can you handle in a month? Okay, let's say 2. Okay. If it costs 8,000 cedis to be you, you can handle only 2 projects in a month. They shouldn't be charging less than 4,000 cedis for a project. That's your floor. It's very simple. And this is very practical in the sense that it has nothing to do with what somebody else is charging, what the market is charging. Now, I'm not saying that you can't charge more than that. You can, right? Now, the question then becomes, if you need to charge 4K a project, what kind of clients can pay you 4K a project? what services are they looking for? Do you have the skills to solve that problem at that level to get paid 4K? That's it. Because if you can find the clients who are paying 4K and then you know the services, then you have the skills, then go and market to them. Go and tell them, hey, I can do this thing for you. Minimum 4K, maybe maximum 5 or 6. Right? Now, if you find the clients who can pay 4K, but then you don't have the skills, they have to change tactics.
Right.
So maybe you need to now move like, okay, then I need to find, if the projects you're getting, that's paying like, it's only paying like 500 cities, then you need to do like 8 of them in a month.
Which is a lot.
Which is a lot. So it's like, okay, you need to upskill, you need to hustle harder, or you need to get a freaking job. That's also a very important thing. And I think too many people aren't willing to have this conversation, right? So it's, for me, that's one of the most practical steps you can take when it comes to figuring out your pricing. And once you grow, then we can have the more sophisticated project conversation about the value of the project to the client and the market rate and all these different things. But in a very basic level, you should do enough work and charge enough to take care of yourself and make some extra. If you're actually doing maybe 8K as your real income, then maybe you need to be shooting for making like 10K because you have a buffer, you have some savings, you can invest, maybe buy some courses, right? And then you work your way backward from there. It's like, okay, do I have the skills? So even in determining like what skills do I learn, how do I grow? That's your North Star, right? Because if you're like, okay, I have the skills and I know the kind of people that has a 4,000, then it's about finding them. Then you have a marketing problem. If it's like, okay, I know what these people are, but then I don't have the skills, then you have like a skill problem. Then you need to have skill, right? Or maybe it's like, okay, I don't want to do that work, then go get a job because you can't be a freelancer or an entrepreneur because it takes a different level of work, right? So again, I'm not trying to get you to charge the highest amount possible based on value. Like, I'm trying to figure out how do you actually survive as a creative and continue to grow, right? So now what I've told you now, I'm doing that right now.
Okay.
Because I'm trying to build Oxegene, and right now it's about leverage. So my goal is every single month, the business should make enough money to pay me, the team, enough so that we can live our lives and then have a little extra to cover business costs.
So
we are very thin.
You do that, you have the maths and then you have like a floor price.
Yes, so I have a floor of how many, because I know how many projects we can handle at the same time. And when you're building a business, it's much more nuanced because things are in flux in the business. You can start a project now, then it goes on pause. Like, it's not as clear cut as a freelance thing. So you also need to take that into consideration.
Right.
But that's the game I'm playing right now, because the point I am in building Oxegene is more about how do I build leverage and show our work to more people and build a portfolio that enables us to charge. So in 12 months, I'll be having a completely different conversation because you have a portfolio, we might make a big announcement, everybody knows we are there, we have the testimonials, so we can start inching up to the higher end of the market. But for now, is that like I need X amount of money to keep the business running, so we need to make Y amount of money. Okay, if that's the case, how many projects can we do? Is C, okay, Y divided by C, that's how much you can charge for a project. That's what we are shooting for, right? If we make more, great, but we can't make less. If we're making less, then it means we need to do more. Do you have the capacity? Yes, no. How do we solve the problem, right? So do that first. And then you can now, when you have some leverage, when you've proven that you can do the work, when you have a portfolio, you can now start playing the more advanced games of like, how do I find more valuable clients? How do I get more value? Also, freelancers, a hack that I don't think anybody talks about. One of your best employers are actually agencies, not individuals. Because agencies they don't have all the teams in-house. So agencies actually work with freelancers a lot. But most freelancers aren't positioning to be hired by agencies or interacting with agencies. They're trying to chase individuals. Mostly because they are scared that the agencies won't pay them well enough. Now, if you're trying to build leverage, maybe that's a place to start because agencies already have the gigs, they have the market, they have the demand. So if you can negotiate a good deal in terms of the intellectual property, which is like, okay, I also get the opportunity to show this on my portfolio. Okay, you can't show it publicly, but I can show it on a Zoom call to a client, it's signed. Then you actually start getting leverage, right? So you may not get money, but negotiate visibility. And come for me if you want. Exposure freaking pays.
Come for him if you want.
Because I'm sick and tired of people on here being like, exposure doesn't pay. Exposure pays. It pays a whole lot. The problem is people don't know how to spend that currency. That's the problem. Visibility matters if you're creative. So you may not get the money, but if you can get the work out there, then leverage that work, you can actually get more work. So it pays.
Yeah, I think talking about exposure, it makes sense if you take it from the point where you're talking about leverage.
Yes.
Because if you take it as a standalone thing, then people get it confusing. Yeah.
Right? It's all leverage. So exposure pays. So it's like I am doing certain things. There's a business I've been chasing for like a year to do free work for them. Because I know the kind of business they are and I know how public they are. And I just want the opportunity to say made by Oxegene in the footer of their websites.
That's all.
We are doing a bunch of projects right now. We are charging 0 cities for it just to have that made by Oxegene. Because I know the scope of the project. I know who's going to be involved. I know how far it's going to go. So I'm not here saying that, I'm Eldad and no. Like, I also know that I'm at the level where, now, if you're at the peak of your career, then it's about IP, it's about long-term value, it's about the leverage, the problem you're solving, a percentage of value. Like, you can have all those conversations with the right person. But I think for most creatives that will be watching this, practically understand what your costs are, know your project quota, put a percentage on top of that. That's your goal. And then fill in the blanks. Skills gaps, network gaps, positioning gaps, right? Until they hit those numbers. Then when you hit those numbers, you can start thinking about the next level, right? Which is like, okay, how do you now position yourself so you can start charging more and attracting better paying clients? And some of that, again, in Ghana, free game, go to events. You will not get your most paying clients. If you're in Ghana, you don't get most of your clients sitting online. I guarantee you. Go to events. Go to events, talk to people, introduce yourself. I didn't want to take this advice before, but then I've been trying to build a business in Ghana for the last 8 months. So take it from me. Go to events, meet people, introduce yourself, have conversations. Your online visibility is a secondary tool. So I go to an event, I introduce myself to somebody, they look me up online. That's why that's important. But by itself, it may not be enough to help you pull the market that you need. Because I can't tell you the number of times I've gone to an event and say, I've seen your videos, right? So again, free game, find a business. I'm telling you, I'm doing it right now. Go to events, meet people, go to coffee shops. Like, if you're in the 100K fam, like this is no news to you. I've been saying it, right? So you know this. But for everybody else who may not be in there, like, yeah, those are. I don't know if I answered the question because I'm trying to be very practical, but yeah.
The goal for the event, I think I need to take it for myself because going to the coffee shops, working outside, you meet interesting people from that place.
But you actively try to talk to people?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That's one thing I think I've been even telling the boys. Anytime we go out for a shoot, anytime we have a guest come here, I'm trying to force them to kind of introduce themselves because you don't know, like you said, you don't know who their next high-paying client is. You understand? Yeah. We went to interview Meister and we spoke to their co-founder, Therese, and we're currently doing something together, partnership, right? Assuming we went there, finish our shoot, pack our stuff, and we left.
Yeah. You wouldn't have had that opportunity.
You understand? So I think, for the events one day, I'm trying because I don't like going out.
I know. You have to find interesting ways to like. I didn't bring it, but the last event I went to, I printed this little book like the one I gave you. It was a marketing brochure. That says like, I paid 3,000 cities to tell you this one thing. And it was me trying to sell websites. It was a cool thing. But you have to find creative ways to be in that space that allows you to differentiate yourself, right? So, but go out. Like, your clients are out there. So, go out, meet them. And again, don't try to sell somebody the first time you meet them.
True.
Just understand what's in your mind. What problems are you trying to solve? Where are you spending most of the capital in your business right now? Those are questions that get you talking. You can look like, this person's not worried about branding right now, but they might be worried about it in 6 months. All right, cool. They can keep their relationship warm until you get there.
Yeah. All right, guys. So this was the little gift that brought me. I said I was going to show it at the end, but I'll probably start using this instead of my big notebook. Anyways, we were speaking about time and money when we went off. Can you talk about that concept? You were saying when you're starting, the biggest advantage you have is time, right? I just want you to for the.
Yeah. So I think. The quote is I read it somewhere, which is like you either have time or you have money. You can't have both, right? And it's a principle in life as it is in business. When you're starting, when you're young, you have more time. You don't have resources, right? Maybe something that's not money, it's resource, right? The most valuable resource, the most abundant, not valuable, the most abundant resource you have is time. You have a lot of time, right? What a lot of people who are starting their careers, especially creatives, don't understand is that you need to spend that currency to build leverage, which is the key thing about this thing. So you can't be, and I'm still in this quote, but you can't be broke and busy. Right? Because like when you don't have money, you have time. So the question then becomes, okay, how do I use that time? And if you understand that what you're trying to do is build leverage, then you use that time to engage in activities, people's, organizations, volunteering. Use the time in ways that can set you up to be able to make money later down the line, right? But that also requires you to have a clear vision of where you're trying to go, because that's also the problem sometimes. People don't know where they're trying to go. So when somebody brings you an opportunity, you can assess whether it's a real opportunity that advances your career or it's a waste of your time because you don't have any North Star, right? So I think that may be a bigger problem of why people aren't willing to like do free things and invest their time. But if you have a clear picture of where you're trying to go, what goals you're trying to achieve, then when somebody brings you an opportunity, you can assess, okay, does this move me a step closer, right? There is this thing in strategy, this question, I don't know where it came from, I don't remember the details, but it's a question that's asked, does it make the boat go faster? So the analogy is like, I think some people were in a canoe somewhere, I don't remember, but they were going somewhere, it has to do with boat, it has to be on water. And then they were wondering about what decisions to make, right? And the person in charge told them to only answer one question. Does it make the boat go faster? If it makes the boat go faster, do it. If it doesn't, don't do it, right? But you need to know where the boat is headed. You need to, like, you guys, so for a lot of creatives that are starting out, you have time. But you need to define, okay, where am I trying to go? And sometimes that goal might be, okay, I don't know where I'm trying to go yet. I'm trying to learn and see what will be the most interesting thing, right? But that means you take on a lot of things. You say yes to people, right? And don't be too worried about, and they'll take advantage of me. Like, yeah. Like, and I'm not like condoning any abusive behaviors or anything, right? But even me, there are people that I meet, I'm like, I don't trust you yet. Right? So your enthusiasm is what makes me go like, okay.
Yeah.
Because there are people I'm paying now to do projects with me consistently that were willing to do this thing for free. Not because they didn't know their value, but because they understood that if they got on my side of the world, there are benefits coming from that, right? So if you have a lot of time, use it. Find the right opportunities. And I am doing that now. Because in trying to build Oxegene, I have a lot more time than I have reputation. So I'm using the time. We're taking on free projects, we're doing pro bono things, we're doing partnerships so that we can have that made by Oxegene tag, right? So if you're starting your career early on, proactively, don't come and text me, I don't have mentorships. I promise we'll open something up, but I get a lot of like messages and emails like, oh, I don't have internships, I'm sorry. But find other people who have internship opportunities, volunteer to do projects. Like there are a bunch of like non-profit causes and things that's another game. The non-profit space is so untapped by creatives at all levels. There are some I'm going to use for myself, so I won't talk about it. But if you're like a designer, a videographer, a photographer, you're looking for a way to improve your skills, partner with a non-profit. Right? Go find a non-profit that need those things and go with them on some of their projects. Maybe they can cover your transportation. And if you have this, do it for free. Because the non-profit, I can guarantee will use that. They need to use it. So do it. They use it. You have something to show. You get to build your skill. And oftentimes, most of the people involved in those non-profits are also involved in for-profit organizations. Yeah. So if you can show your skills there, you typically get the opportunity to get recruited for their for-profit things when it shows up. And sometimes some of these non-profits have budgets allocated for certain things. They have volunteer budgets. So they may not be paying you your full rates, but they will pay you something, right? So don't sit and go like, okay, if you're scared the agency will take advantage of you, sure. Even though I still think it's a really dope play. See, if I'm a creative and I have time and I have a laptop, I walk up to agencies and go like, can I intern for free? Because it shows you how they operate internally. You learn, you get to touch accounts that you would never dream of by yourself. That is leverage. But you have a lot of creatives sitting with laptop and skills going like, oh, if they're not paying me. And guess what? If you go in there and you kill it, 5 out of 6 times, they just go like, do you want to come and work? Like, can you move to a paid internship? But even if it doesn't work, you are working more on building your skills, right? So if you have free time, use it. Don't get too, I think too many of, I get it. I don't want to come off in this video as like somebody who is insensitive or I'm not aware of the fact that people need money. Okay, so what I was saying is that I don't want to be insensitive to the need of people to make income, okay? Because I know it's very easy for somebody to go like, oh, you're a senior, you're making a lot of money. But what I'm saying is a way of thinking about how you spend your time. And I could confidently say, and I think anybody who knew me from much early on will tell you, like, even before I started making any significant income as a creative, I always thought about the world like that. Right. And I think that was the kind of thinking that created some of the opportunities that then allowed me to become a profitable creative, right? So it's not a benefit, like this way of thinking is not a benefit of the fact that, oh, you're already making revenue as a creative. It's a prerequisite to put yourself in a position that allows you to become a profitable creative, right? So like, your time is currency, spend it. And to spend it properly, you need to know a North Star. So pick a North Star. Where do you want to go, right? And it's fine if after 6 months, you're like, oh, I don't like that, right? But like, another quote I love so much, you can't direct a car that is not moving.
It's not moving.
If the car is stationary, whatever direction you're giving is useless. Right. But if the car is in motion, you can still go left and you go left. You can still go right and you go right. Right? So even if you're not clear, get going. And then through the activity, you're going to like get nudges, like we said from the first part, of like, okay, go here, go there, go here, go there, right? And another quote I have is like, motion creates clarity. A lot of people think they're going to sit down and then think and figure out, okay, I want to be an animator. As opposed to you take the job as a graphic designer and then somebody say, can you try animation? And then you try and say, oh, I love it. I want to become that thing, right? Or you even just like take the job as a graphic designer and say, oh, animation actually pays because my friend was an animator or was on this project with me. Like, things happen because you're in motion. And I think too many people, and I understand, like a lot of people have been taken advantage of, a lot of people have been hurt from like the stories I've heard. So it's very, very hard for them to trust. And some people, although they've not been hurt themselves, they've heard stories of their friends who've been taken advantage of. So it's very hard for them to trust and to go like, oh, I want to do some of these things, right? But as hard as that is, it's a part of the game. If you don't take the shots, you don't have a chance of winning, right? So yes, protect yourself. Yes, be smart. But I think if you have a North Star, very few things are losses. Like if you have a clear direction, very few things are losses. And if you don't have a clear direction, pick a point. It's a big board. Hopefully you have a lot of time. So pick a point, start, observe, and if something isn't working, tweak, right? So that's just how you use time. Like it's currency, spend it. And as you grow, now you have more resources. You have more leverage, right? So your time becomes more precious, right? Because now, okay, you've proven you can do the work, you're in demand. So now the 2 hours that you can give to somebody for free is not just free anymore because the opportunity cost is you could use that 2 hours for something else and that will make you a lot more money. So at that point, you can be stingy with your time. At that point, you can start saying no. At that point, you can start saying like, I can't take this on, I can't take that on, I can't take that on. But very early on, like I would even argue year 1 to year 3, bruh, just go ham, explore, do free stuff, get internships, volunteer, like build your portfolio. And a bunch of people that have come on this have said it. I think the Art God, Jerry Bass, like even like Del P was saying it, like you have to build your skill. Because you don't just get up and then become the hot thing, right? And I think the delusion is like people don't understand just how much work it takes to build yourself. So they're not willing to do it. And then they are complaining that they're not able to charge. I'm like, you can't. Why should I pay you 10,000 cities? What makes you worth 10,000? It's not because you're telling me that you're worth 10,000. There has to be some objective, deliverable value that makes me go like, okay, yes, I'm willing to part. Because again, another quote in economics, I'll butcher it, but it says like, it's not after the benevolence of the baker that she makes bread every morning. The baker doesn't bake bread because she just likes you and she wants to give you bread. No, she's baking bread because you come and give her money in return and she wants that money more than she wants the bread. Your clients will not give you money because they have it. So that's another mistake creatives make. Like, oh, say where they are, like, so you should be able to pay. I'm like, says who? Right? Like there's always an exchange of value and people are willing to part with their money because you're providing a tangible solution to a problem and you're valuable in that regard, right? And value looks different. But if you're doing that, you can demand money. But you have to learn to be valuable. It doesn't like, in business, like that's just the game, right? So spend time, pursue value. It gets better from there.
The concept, the quote you said about you cannot direct a car that is not moving, right? I read this book by Ali Abdal, it's even behind you, Feel Good Productivity. That has to do with productivity, but I think it's similar. So a lot of people complain about they don't have the energy to start. And he said something that once you start going, then it's easier to continue going.
Cheat code.
But if you don't start, so and a lot of mistake people have it, they have to start huge. Yesterday, a friend reached out to me. He's part of the team, but he's out of town. He wants to start putting content out there concerning what he's doing and all that. And I told him that, yeah, it's good, but then don't try and go big the first time. If you can push one content a month, that is movement. That is progress.
Yeah.
Then you go 2. You realize that at a point, you don't even have to think about it. It will just become 10, 15. That is one thing people don't know.
Like, I used to suffer from that as well. I still suffer from it. Like, we were talking about it, right?
Yeah.
I'm a go big or go home kind of guy, right? And I remember there was this quote that says, too many people say go big or go home, and a lot of them end up going home.
Yeah.
Right? Like, very few people actually end up going big, right? Most people end up going home because they can. And that is a struggle I also have. There are a lot of things that I still want to do at this level that I'm not able to tap into that mindset of like start small. And for me, sometimes I kind of justify it because it's like the way my brain works. If it's small and I've done it once, I'm not incentivized to continue again because the joy is in the figuring it out.
Yeah.
Right? But then I'm able to stay longer if it's a bigger task because then I have more to figure out and it's more interesting. But that's just a story I'm telling myself. Maybe I'm full of BS, right? But it's something I understand that, right? But you're right, because it's like the times where I've grown online, like I'm at about 2,500 followers on LinkedIn right now. And it was just like, told myself I'll post a video every week. It doesn't matter. Just,
wow. Yeah.
Yeah, but it will surprise you like what works. But the cooler thing is now I can go look at my analytics and see what flew and like what got the most engagement, right? But even then, it's still hard for me to like live that every day, right? So yeah, I understand you.
Yeah. Keep going.
But yeah, you have to keep going.
What matters is just the starting.
It's momentum. Like momentum works in both ways, right? Like inertia works in both ways. If you're at to stand still, it's hard to start. If you're moving, it's hard to stop. So it's typically about figuring out, like, I use timers all the time. If you follow me on Instagram, you see me, I have this kitchen timer. That's because like of that principle. Sometimes like it takes forever to do a task because I'm overthinking it. But if I could just set a 10 minutes timer and like, okay, I'm just going to do it for 10 minutes. By the time it's over, I'm resetting it because I'm now in motion. And it's like, okay, now I can get into the work. But getting to the point where it's like, oh, I need to start a 10 minutes timer, that's when it's hard, right? So like all the things we are saying is just pick a point. Like go on LinkedIn right now, look for NGOs in Ghana and find their Instagram or LinkedIn, send them a DM. Hey, I'm a photographer. Hey, I'm a designer. Hey, I'm an animator. I'm an illustrator. I'm this person and I want to volunteer, right? Here are the things I can help. If you want to go a step further, find their website, see if they have a program and be go like, oh, I want to help you record videos for this program. I'm doing it for free. As long as you just give me some credits and allow me to use the work, right? So it's about starting. It's like, get started.
There are a lot of questions on my book. I'm sure you can see from there.
Yeah.
A lot. You were talking about North Star, right? Know where you're going. Personally, as an individual, how have you been able to? I'm sure definitely you're still trying to put for Oxegene, you're still trying to find that and all that. But as an individual, how have you been doing that? Finding where you're going to so that you're able to say no to some stuff?
That's a good question. I think for the early part of my career, I didn't have a North Star in terms of here's where I'm going. But then I had a North Star in terms of what I was trying to achieve, which was to learn as much as possible. Right? So it can even go beyond, like before that, when I was going to the university, and I have a blog post that maybe I'll send you for you to link.
Okay.
I wrote it on the day of my graduation. When I went to university, my North Star then, so we can start from there. My North Star in the university was to figure out what I'm good at and what I wasn't good at. And I got that because before university, I was hanging out around some entrepreneurs. Shout outs to Ghana Thing, Gamaleja, I was in Apia, the squad. I was hanging around some of these guys and I realized that, most of them were doing things that they didn't study for in school. But then they were making bank. Yeah. And then it kind of sank in. I don't know if somebody told me, but it kind of sank in that, the goal and the value of university education is not to get grades, it's to figure out what you're good at so you can get paid for it. Like, so when I was going to the university, that was my understanding of what I was going there to do. I wasn't going there to get first class. Yeah. I was a proud second lower from year 1 to year 4. I didn't move. I think year 3, I got serious a bit and I had fantasies about getting to second upper because I killed my mini project. But I didn't move. Like, I was 59 point something the whole time.
Yeah, I think I also ended with lower.
Right.
I was just fucked.
You get right? Because for me, it was like, oh, no. Like the schoolwork is just to keep me in school long enough. As long as I don't get kicked out, I'm fine. But the real value was to figure out what I'm good at. So I did everything.
Right.
I took opportunities. I volunteered, competitions. Like I tried so many things. And at the end of my 4th year, it became clear to me, oh, you are a creative brain. You are more of like a solutions type. You're not necessarily like the logical, algorithmic type of person, right? So I could clearly say, okay, I tried this, I didn't like it. I tried it, I didn't like it.
So kind of experimenting with.
Exactly, right? So university, that was my North Star. When I graduated, I think it was Gary Vee or somebody I heard that said this, which was like, in your 20s, explore. So that was my North Star. It's like, okay, I want to learn as much as possible, right? See that you're learning or you're earning for everything you engage in. And for me, my 20s was about learning first. So I took the opportunities that allowed me to learn. So while I didn't have like, oh, I want to become a this, I want to become a that, I want to become a this, I knew from my university that I was a creative type and I want to learn as much as possible in that space. So the things that came across my table, I picked the ones that offered me like the most learning opportunity, right? So for example, like my first job at Code Hub right out of university, like I was saying, I had other offers that, were potentially going to pay more money, but I figured Code Hub was the place I was going to learn the most. So I stayed over there and I stayed focused on it, right? So university after university, that's how I've been able to figure out the North Star. Now, as I've grown, it's getting a little more nuanced, right? So currently, one of my biggest North Stars is financial security for my family, right? I'm married, I have a daughter, I have a wife, and I think a lot about, like, God forbid I'm not here, how will that family continue to go on without me in a way that is sustainable financially? Because like this, my wife has dedicated her life to me, supporting me in a lot of different ways. I'm thinking about that in the future, right? So yes, I've learned a lot in my 20s, but in my 30s, I'm like, okay, I'm now going to build a business, right? So that's a broad North Star. It's like I need to build a business that is structured well, it's a machine, can run, it has processes, and it's not tied to me as an individual. Right now, within that is Oxegene and 20 other things. So whilst like for those specific things, there aren't any clear North Stars, like here is my particular North Star right now. It's like, okay, I want to build the profitably sustainable business over the long term, right? And something else you notice is like, I try to be very practical. I don't have, because I'm living life, right? And these things are tied to my life. So I don't have any, I can have ambitions and things like that, but it's like, I'm trying to solve the practical problem first. And I remember I went to an event and somebody didn't necessarily like that approach. So this is not a prescription, right? But I'm saying I like to solve practical problems for myself. And now it's like I'm 30, at 40, I don't want the family that I have to worry about money in any way. Like I want there to be proper financial structures and businesses that are, producing revenue, like baseline revenue. Sidebar. This whole North Star thing is like also like a big part of it is happiness, right? Like what you define as happiness. And I've had to do a lot of work in trying to define for myself, like, okay, what do I actually, like, because I'm an ambitious person and a friend was asking me last night, like, when do you know enough is enough? And I'm like, my enough is actually very simple. Like my baseline for what's enough is simple. I want to put my family in a position where we have what we need to keep, going on. I have opportunities I'm excited about that are coming up in the future, and I'm doing things I love and I'm exploring things. That's my baseline. If I can hit those baselines, I'm happy. Everything else is a bonus. So my big dreams and ambitions, like those don't make me happy necessarily, right? So my North Stars are more practical, they are more simpler. And if you're looking for a way to find them, maybe look into the practical stuff. Now, as I've grown, I've also tried to align my North Stars with things that I enjoy doing. I'm great at talking. As you can tell, this is part 2.
That was a good one.
All right. So eventually, at some point, I want to make money from communication because I think I'm good at summarizing ideas, keeping an audience engaged, like presenting, complex ideas in a way that people can understand, and that is valuable in the world that we're in. So at some point in the next decade, I want to start making substantial income from doing that. It's just finding what the right platform is. So if you're looking for a speaker, hello, your boy.
Good one.
Right. Yeah. So you can also find your North Stars, in things that kind of align with what you're good at doing. Scott Galloway, one of my favorite guys, check him out. He has a quote that says like, follow your talents, not your passion, right? What are you actually good at doing, right? Like pursue that and pursue to the best of your ability. And hopefully somebody will need that and they'll pay you for it, but you're good at it. So you keep growing, right? Passion comes second. right? So yeah, I don't have like a practical, here's a 10 steps for figuring out what your North Star is.
No.
But I feel like solve the problems that you have now and then tap into your talent, your abilities. I'm a people person. I'm an organizer. I'm an idea person. I have big visions. Like, I solve problems. I think laterally about things. Okay, how do I build businesses that suits that? How do I give myself more of that leverage, right? And maybe another thing that I can use to summarize this is a framework I shared earlier, which is explore, exploit. There are two phases of everything. One is exploration, which is like, I don't know where I'm going. I'm trying to figure it out. And then exploitation is like, oh, okay, now I have some key things that I think could work. Let me get the most out of them, right? So figuring out a North Star could sound like, oh, this is the thing that you have to do. It's like, not really. It could just be like, okay, I want to explore, and that's your North Star. So you take the things that come, but you don't have unrealistic expectations. I think that's a real problem, right? Is the expectation. So if you're an explorer, you learn, you observe, you adapt, and you get feedback as a human being. You know what you like, you know what you don't like, you know what works, what doesn't work. Ask on that feedback, right? Follow your talent, what you're good at, and maybe build a skill of figuring out what people want and figuring out how your unique talents fit into that, right? If you put those things together at any point, you could have some direction. Okay, here's where I want to go. And then like execute, observe, iterate, and be practical. Like I'm not sitting here saying I'm trying to build a 100 million city business in the next 2 years. I think I want to do that in 10 years, maybe in 15 years. But in the next 2 years, I'm trying to make enough money to keep my fam happy, bro. Like that's it. That's my North Star, right? And I'm trying to lay the foundation for Oxegene. But in 10 years, I know that I want to build this really big thing that has like huge impact. It's making crazy money. But that's how I approach it. Be practical, lean into your talents, explore first. And when you find things that work, exploit. And your North Star will change at different parts of your life. It won't be the same when you're in university. Like, you know, like it will change as time goes on. And I think that's another thing. People think like you're born with one North Star. There are a few people like that. They were born, had an amazing revelation from God. They know they are supposed to be there. They are going there. Great. Assume you're not one of them. If you happen to be, fantastic. But assume you're not one of them and actually take a more scientific approach to figuring out what things you're good at and where you want to drive. And always be rooted in solving the practical problems first. That will give you like a good way to go.
I want us to talk a little bit about design. There were some few things I had a question about. But before that, teamwork, right? You mentioned something at the beginning, I think in the part one, where you mentioned that you like bringing people that are like different places, bring them together and then do something. What do you look out for when you're putting teams together, when you're reaching out to someone to get work done? Yeah.
I think I'm usually looking for people that are just excited to do the work, whatever it is they're doing. That's the first thing. It's like, is this person excited about doing the thing that they're doing? And it doesn't matter what level they are, junior, mid-level, senior. That's like, for me, that's like metric number one, right? Actually, I think that's the only metric. That's the biggest thing. Of course, if I'm putting you in a project, I'm interested in, can I afford you? Okay. I'm looking out for like, communication skills, because that's huge. Are you the kind of person that won't tell me if there's a hiccup and then, you know, ghost me for 2 weeks and come and go like, oh, last week I couldn't figure out the thing out. You know, so I'm looking out for all those signs. But I think quite honestly, I'm looking for like excited experts, people that are really good at one thing, they're passionate about it. Of course, like you can't also be too precious about your own ideas, because, and I was telling somebody that I was bringing onto a project, like working on projects with me is a benevolent autocracy. I usually have very, very clear visions of like the things I'm trying to achieve, which is why I'm putting the teams together. So sometimes if somebody isn't able to suspend their own ideas, at least to understand the perspective of the vision I'm trying to build, then it's not going to work. Right. So I'm also looking out for people that are teachable. And teachable doesn't mean like you don't know what I'm trying to tell you. People that are willing to listen to feedback and consider different perspectives from their own. Right? That's also very key. So you need to be excited about the work. You need to be good at it, but also need to be willing to like consider, and not just mine, because you're coming onto a team with another expert in a different field that has a completely different opinion than you. You need to be able to go like, maybe he has a point. Maybe let me go try that out. So let me give you an example. I was doing a project, I was designing something, and I put a page together that I thought looked good. Then I shared it with a designer that I was working on the project with. He's a graphic designer, not a UI person. It was like, that looks very flat, it's boring. Maybe if we put a gradient here, it's going to work. And I'm like, maybe not a gradient, but I understand what you mean by it looks flat. So let me try something. And I did something else that brought the entire thing to life, right? I could have gone like, yeah, I know what
Yeah.
what do you know? Like, you're a UI person, right? So I think it would be, yes, be excited and passionate about what you're doing, be willing to listen, great at communication, and be open to playing with other people, like, and tapping into a vision that's not yours, right? Then there's all the other technical things that you need to be good at. But that's a given. Like, I'm not putting you on a project and expecting that you be bad at communication or expecting that you don't know how to use your tools. Like, so that's table stakes, right?
Yeah.
But the things that I think makes my projects work is those first few things: the collaboration, excitement, communication.
I think you answered part of it, but I was going to ask a question about leading a team, right?
Yeah.
Because one of the most important things is the people having the same vision as you have.
Yeah.
And that means the people have to be teachable,
Yeah.
like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
But are there other ways you are instilling this in them? Like, hey, you come to work with me, or that is a very communicative person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm moving fast, I'm doing this, I'm doing that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you kind of create an environment where they think like you, they approach problems like you and all that?
So that's the thing. First of all, like, I don't want you to think like me. Because if you think like me, I get what you mean by think like you, but primarily it's like, if you think like me, then we don't get unique results.
Okay.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the projects that I do typically have a certain, like, a very unique feel, because the people that are on it are thinking differently, and we are melding these unique thinkings together.
Okay.
So the goal for me is to understand the vision. That's the first thing. Like, you need to be clear on, what are we trying to do? What are we trying to achieve? That's because once you understand that, then your creative abilities come to bear. Like, okay, we're trying to go north. How do we get north from my perspective?
Yeah.
Right? We're trying to go south. How do I get south from my perspective? So it's not like I'm not interested in getting people to think like me, but I am interested in people that can be able to see the vision.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing, which is like, you need to be clear on, like, what are we trying to do here? And it's when it works, what does it look like? So let me give you an example. We're working on a branding project. And like, it's actually, it's a fun story. It's a project that caused a little ruckus in some design groups I was in. It was a project called CMConf. It was a conference I was planning, but then I was doing a series of interviews before the project. So I had Ed on, I had Cleopas on, and I got tired, I didn't continue. But when we're doing the design for that project, the brand, I'm like, I wanted something that felt natural. Like, what's the most natural depiction of elements we can use? And I was like, when you pour a bubble, when you pour like a bunch of gravel or a number of things into a glass jar.
Oh, I think I saw that design.
Right? Yeah. How does it fall? They don't all fall upright, right? Things fall in very awkward and very unique ways. So that was the vision for like the kind of language I wanted to create. And I wanted to do that for a number of reasons. One, I'm on this spree of being distinctive. I feel like everything on like in design right now looks bland and same and one directional. So everything looks good, but everything looks the same, right? So for a while now, like, I've been on this crave to make everything I do distinctive. Like, it needs to get your attention. And I'm also big on studying how content creation works. And in content creation, like, the people say, you have a hook, right? I wanted the things I was creating to have a hook, something that makes somebody stay with that more than the 5 seconds of consideration. So in that particular design, that was the concept, right? I'm like, you know what? We're going to make things fall naturally, which means some things will be upside down. They will not be readable at first glance. But it's like, hey, it's a phone. Turn the freaking phone, man, and look at the thing. So that was the vision, right? Now I give it to the designer. He went and he came back. And when he brought it back, the elements were facing different directions, but the text were all upright. I don't know if you get it.
Yeah.
And I was like, no.
The text and the elements.
Right? But at first, like, so here's how you lead a team. In that situation, it's very easy for you to start getting prescriptive. Like, no, turn the text around. Like, that's right.
Okay.
But the epiphany I had in that moment was like, this person is a great designer. I don't need to teach them how to design. What they don't understand is my vision of what I'm trying to achieve.
Okay.
So I now put back and go like, okay, here's what I'm trying to do. First of all, same thing. I'm trying to create something that is akin to nature. Like, the way the design elements behave shouldn't obey the rules of design. They should obey the rules of nature. Right? And I'm doing it for XYZ reason. So imagine this. When I pour gravel into this, like, same thing I told you, right? I explained that. And then they went off and they brought back iterations that I'm like, fantastic. Made decisions that even I wouldn't have made if I were hand holding them. Right? So that's what I mean by like making the vision and the outcome clear. Because I think people leading teams, it's very easy for us to go into like micromanages, like, okay, no, do it like this. There are times where I do that because I have a specific art direction that we either don't have time or I can't do that myself. So I have to like handhold you. But 90% of the time, if I can get you to understand the vision of what I'm trying to build, then you can bring your creativity to it and we can produce things that even I couldn't have guided you into creating, right? Because you are bringing your own skills to. So that's thing number one, make the vision clear. Thing number two, respect the people on your team.
Okay.
That's it. I don't know how else to put it. Because like, I think people thrive in environments where they feel respected. Even if they're juniors, listen to their opinions, consider them. Even if you disagree, how you communicate that disagreement is important, right? So like, you just don't, like respect the people on your team. Like I hope that everybody that's worked with me before will tell you that, hey, like working with Eldad is like, you get respected. You get a space for your ideas to be heard. Like they will all not be taken for sure, but they'll be heard out, they'll be considered. And if they don't work, you'll be told why they don't work, right? So respect the people on your team. Make them feel important. Like make them feel important to the project, right? So that's thing number two. Thing number three is be human. Like the first 10 minutes of my calls with any team member is spent catching up on life. What food do you like? Did you go out this weekend? So I know a lot about my team's personal life because I spend time actually like, I care about the human being. Like you're not just here to do the deliverable and go away, right? So it's like, I need what's happening in your life. Like, because sometimes that also influences the deliverables, right? So and every time I find out one of my teams, like apparently he's a metalhead, had the whole dumbbell situation in the house. I didn't know about that, but I was wearing tank tops. I saw his arms. I'm like, dude, like what? Like, do you lift, right? So just be human with the people that you're working with, right? Let them feel this is a human thing, right? And be honest. Hey, I need to put 2 weeks into this, but Charlie, it's not working. And that's one of the key things, because I think a lot of leaders, in the fear of trying to make people feel safe, they lie to people and not tell them the truth. But that just leads to people getting hurt down the line. Somebody gives you a deliverable, it's not good. You say, oh, it's fine, they go and change it. How do you think they'll feel? And that's selfish, by the way. I'm supposed to be honest and go like, hey, this is not hitting. So let me take a crack at this, right? Maybe I can show you exactly what I'm saying, but I really appreciate the effort, but I just don't think we have it. So don't be scared to make it clear to your team where they are succeeding and where they are failing, because otherwise they also don't grow, right? And for me, one of the things, like, you don't work with me for like 2 months and stay the same. Like, you need to improve somewhere, you need to grow somewhere, right? So yeah, so those are some of the things that, like, I think I've tried to do. And if you can't, just have fun. I don't do that as much anymore because all our teams are remote primarily. But when I was leading a team at Code Hub, like, there are parties, they hang out. There are times where it's like, I'll be on a call Friday morning, everyone is down, I'm like, I'm sending pizza to everyone's house. Right? And like, some people say they want the money, I'll send it. Like, bro, you'll be surprised. Because I think too many leaders don't understand that people are humans, and people need to be cared for as much as they need to be held accountable to standards. So I try as much as possible to make my teams fun. But in the middle of all that, it's painfully clear that we are here to play ball. Like, the standards are high. So all these things I'm talking about is not devoid of us being very clear about the standards. That's like you need to bring your A game, right? So I always tell people, please don't do me a favor. You can either decide to get on the project or don't get on the project. And also be transparent. I'm always transparent. Hey, this project is going to pay. I can pay you X amount of money. This project is paying me Y. I can't tell you, but here's the budget I have available for this particular portion of it. If you trust me, let's ball, right? So be as transparent as possible, because also in creative teams, like, the business of it can be tricky, right? So I go close X amount for a project. Most people don't understand all the mechanics that goes to delivering the project. So they think because you're closing X, then they should get 50% of X, right? So you need to learn how to navigate all those things. But I really, really try to, like, respect people, be honest with them, take the hard route when I can, in terms of, just this work, that doesn't work. And do all those other things, and also be helpful. Don't just be like, that doesn't work and then leave me hanging. How do I improve it? Right? So if I like, this doesn't work, I'll get on a call, try to explain it, and then I'll send you some resources. If you still don't get it, let's get on a Figma, let's get on a call together, let's jam it out. If you still don't get it and we're running out of time, then I may take you over and do it. Or I may call another buddy in my network who's an expert, and I'm like, hey, can you hop on a call for like 30 minutes and help me figure this out? right? So those are some of the things I used to build teams. And this is like, I've run multiple teams, in the design space. I run teams at church for like our productions, and it's a similar ethos, right? Of bringing people together and like giving them the space to function.
Wow. Masterclass. When we're talking about your projects, I think we're talking about projects that pay you now. I think you mentioned something like you treat each project as your next interview, if that was the way to
use. I treat every project as the interview for the next one.
Good. You mentioned something about your projects from 2018 still giving you money,
yeah,
and they are timeless, right? How do you approach that? How are you making designs that no matter the time the client is coming, you can present that to them?
Bro, that's hard.
Yeah, I know. That's why I brought it towards the end.
I think the first thing is just avoid the trends. Because, and I'm everything I'm saying now is in hindsight. I think it's in looking back that I've come to understand that this was how I was operating, right? So it's not like in 2018. I think in 2018 I was just trying to do cool shit, right? I was trying to do things that were ahead of the time. I think that's one of the key things, because like some of the sites we're designing and the apps we're designing, and how like even like using illustrations as part of like our core delivery for brand projects, like dude, like nobody, right? So I think for those projects, it was like we wanted to be ahead of the times. We wanted to do something that was different, that was future looking. And I think that's why a lot of them fit into today's ethos, right? So for those projects back then, I think that was the goal. But it fits into the first thing I was going to say, which is like, just ignore the trends. When you're going to create something, it's very easy for people to go like, okay, what's working, what's hot? Let's do that. So every designer starts their design process from looking at Dribble, Pinterest, now Mobbing, or Pageflow, or Lapa. Yeah. Like we all go out there to see what's currently happening to create something. But then what that does is it creates this vicious cycle, right? So a few people go out there to see what's currently happening. They see something, that's how they copy it. It creates a larger audience. Then the next person goes and says, oh, everyone is doing this. Okay, let me do that, right? So one of the ways to create timeless is just to avoid was like, as much as possible, avoid the trend. If it's trendy, don't do it.
Yeah.
Now, if you are really, really dedicated, you can understand why the trend is popping. And there are certain cases where following the trend is the right thing, because you're not building a timeless project. You're building a project that's supposed to be hot. It takes advantage of the time. It moves on, it goes, right? And musicians do this a lot. Like, if you see musicians that have been sustainable for a really long time, they change with the times. Trap is how they're doing trap. Like, hip-hop is how they're doing hip-hop. Like, Afrobeat is how it's like, I'm a piano, so they're doing I'm a piano, right? So there are some cases where I guess you could say that keeping up with the trends and evolution is beneficial based on your outcome. But the question here is, how do you create something that's timeless? So a timeless thing may not always be the most profitable thing. So let's just get that out the door, right? Because if your goal is to like get the most engagement, most attention, then maybe don't listen to some of this advice. Use the trends, leverage them, ride the waves, right? But if you want to create something that lasts, just ignore the trends, right? Obsess over the outcome. What am I trying to do with this design? Like, what do I want people to feel when they see it? What reaction? That's actually a question that really helps. Like, what reaction do you want people to get when they look at this? It's just like, we did a project recently that I'm like, when someone is going through this, I'll show it to you later, I want them to feel very solemn. So every decision was like that. There were very little whites. Everything was like a grayish, that, like, so for me, that usually guides, right? Like what I'm trying to create is like, what's the outcome? What do I want people to feel? How do I want them to interact with this thing, right? And then I try to go back to like very, very core principles, like principles of like perception, psychology, even if you're doing design, just like the basic stuff, right? And recently, one thing I'm trying to do is like, I'm trying to mimic nature as much as possible in the things I create, because that's like, nature is the most abundant, everlasting thing that we've ever experienced. Like, it's always there, but somehow, yeah, right? And if you're interacting with nature, it always feels good. So it's like, okay, we're doing a circle and the core idea is hexagons. Where do hexagons appear in nature? What can I pull from that? So what that does is, if I can go there and pull an idea, if I put it together, well, it won't look like the next thing.
True.
Right? Because I'm just not trying to rip off like what somebody else is doing. So I think in this, and I was telling one of my designers, in this AI culture that we're getting into, that skill is going to become even more important. Like, can you go back to source?
Okay.
Can you find, like, because finding unique ideas is getting really, really hard. Like, how do you find an idea that's so unique? And I think one of the ways to do is just to like understand the rest of life, right? So like understand the rest of life. So go, like recently I was looking at like game scenes on like ArtStation and asking myself, okay, if I had to put this into a UI, how would it work? Principles of light. How does light work? Like, you know, like, and these are things that I feel like classically trained graphic designers are going to have an advantage because they understand those principles. And a lot of us that kind of came into the game just through self-teaching, we don't get some of these things, right? But those are some of the things I will typically do now. But in 2018, dude, I was trying to create cool shit. That's it. Like, I was trying to create work that hasn't been seen before. And I'm still kind of doing that in a lot of ways, right? Trying to create work that hasn't been seen before. That stands out, that calls out to you. That's fun. That's interactive, right? But now it's more of like, if you can successfully ignore the trend, because you can also ignore the trend and end up in 1940, right? But if you can successfully ignore the trends and understand the fundamental principles of like, you know, storytelling and visuals and human perception, you can then create like a really unique thing. So you almost have to have a timeless perspective on life to create timeless design, right? So if all you're consuming is the Twitter TL and the designs that are getting the most likes, that's what you're going to replicate. If all you're consuming is dribble, that's what you're going to replicate, right? And I also have a wide array of like sources and things I look at. Like different agencies and different spaces with different approaches, like different arts. And sometimes like, I remember like the Code Hub logo, the thing that helped me to crack it was Russian constructivism. I remember very well because I was struggling with that logo for hours. Like days before, but then hours I'm like, something is missing, I couldn't crack it. And then hours before the call, I was on Pinterest and I was looking at art and I saw this Russian constructivism and I was like, what if, pull some of that stuff in, and then I created I made a tweak. So I made a tweak, went to the meeting, everybody loved that. That logo still stands today and I love it, right? So it's those kinds of things, and it's like that kind of deep work on trying to find concepts and ideas that work. I'm always trying to find projects that align with people's interests, because people are always trying to answer that question, what's in it for me? And the kind of people I like to work with, money is a secondary thing that's in it for them. They either want that project because they want to learn a new thing or prove something, or, you know, they want money, but that's not always second. And people that are like, the first thing is like, how much are you paying? I'm usually like, oh, like, yeah. So
yeah. All right. Let's talk about Oxegene before the last session.
Yeah.
What's the goal? What's the vision?
So I think the vision of Oxegene is to build like a McKinsey type organization, right? So McKinsey is like a global consulting company. They consult for everybody, governments, big companies, individuals, like, and they're almost like a problem solving hub, right? When I got the domain for Oxegene, or what led me to that was like, I realized that problem solving in Africa is too segregated. And if you want to get solutions, you have to go here for this, go here for that, go here for that. But most African businesses and entities and organizations typically tend to need an integrated approach to solving problems, right? So the goal of Oxegene is to build like a consultancy that solves, you know, Africa's most challenging problems with like creative media and technology over the long haul, right? So that's maybe like the 10-year goal, 20-year goal. Now, currently, we're a communication company. We build communication solutions for businesses using like a strategy-first approach, right? So understanding what outcomes you're trying to get, what the business problem is, and then defining what communication components we need to create, and then go ahead and do that, right? We might be there for the next 3-5 years, and then the evolution will start into like becoming more of a consultancy than just, I don't like using the word an agency, so we realize I don't even say we're an agency, right? We're a communication company. So the goals evolve from that to become like a consultancy of sorts, right? But that's just my hypothesis, right? So, because the other things I want to be in there, like initially I had a website that I took down, there was labs, because I want to build products. What I call 0 to 1 products. You read 0 to 1, so you should know. Yeah, so products that are so unique to the African context and they solve the African problem directly, right? So it's a big vision, maybe 10-20 years. But right now, we are a communication company for B2B entities, right? So businesses that are dealing with other businesses that has different needs when it comes to communication. They are not trying to reach customers. They are still creators like investors, funders, partners, supply chain managers, those kinds of things. That's what we are doing right now.
All right. What an episode. Guys, like I was saying in the beginning, if you've not watched part 1, I think you should go and watch that. Repeat and complete.
Yeah.
We'll definitely bring him back for another part. You come, right?
Yeah, I'll come, of course.
He said it all.
I'll come. if the date works.
We'll definitely bring him for. But I've learned so much, even looking at my notes here. Even though what I've written, I'm a little person who can read.
I know the feeling.
All right, repeat and complete. So I'll say a phrase.
Mm-hmm.
You repeat it, and then you complete it.
Mm-hmm.
You repeat it.
And then
Don't answer the question. Repeat it and complete it. All right. So when I'm not working, you can find me.
When I'm not working, you can find me working.
Another Joshua clip. Yeah, I expected that as that. One thing people will be surprised to know about me is.
One thing people will be surprised to know about me is I'm actually a big clown. See, you're surprised. I think when I'm around family, I actually joke a lot. Like I'm
really?
a big clown. But I think that typically just happens around family.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The first app I open in the morning is.
It varies. YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for a sermon. Or WhatsApp. Yeah. So YouTube, WhatsApp, email. One of those 3.
Okay.
On the days where I'm disciplined, it's typically YouTube or the Bible app because I'm trying to do my devotion.
Okay.
But WhatsApp and email because I'm checking if somebody has sent you a message or I have like a response to a work thing. Because I typically end my days with tasks.
Mm-hmm.
So usually when I wake up, I just want to know where things are. Yeah. So WhatsApp or email.
If I could have any superpower, it would be
to know what people truly want. So I answered the question. I'm sorry. If I could have any superpowers, it would be to know what people really want, what people truly want.
That's interesting. So that you can give them what they want.
Yeah. I want to build businesses, man. That's how you do it. Yeah.
My favorite way to unwind after a long day is.
My favorite way to unwind after a long day is. On some days, spend time with the wife.
Mm-hmm.
Some days, that's like half the time. The other half is hard. It's hard to unwind.
You're just grinding, just working.
Yeah, no, sometimes I'm actually even tired and I want to, but it's just, I don't have. Now I'm trying to build a new routine. So stretching, taking a shower and reading, like actually reading, not listening. That has been doing the trick, but it's not yet a favorite.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I could travel anywhere in the world right now, I would go to.
If I could travel anywhere in the world right now, I might go to Barbados because my friend has been asking me to come.
Okay.
Or go to New York because I have a bunch of clients that I want to see. I'm not a big travel person, so I don't have like dream destinations. But yeah, so either Barbados or New York. Or maybe go do a tour of Silicon Valley. I don't think I want to go to Silicon Valley.
You want to go and do a tour?
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know.
Okay. If I could swap lives with anyone for a day, it would be
Gary V. If I could swap life with anyone for a day, I think out of all the people that I have met or like I've seen online, he's one of the few that speaks and behaves in a way that I feel drawn to. So in a lot of ways, I think I aspire to build some of the things he's building at that scale because I have multiple interests. I want to build a portfolio of companies. Yeah, so it'd be nice to see what that feels like and to know if I really want it or not.
Yeah, he's not doing the repeat and complete, so please do that one again. If I could swap lives with anyone for a day,
I could swap life with anyone for a day, to be Gary Vaynerchuk, aka Gary V.
Thank you. If I could only eat one food for the rest of my life, it would be.
If I could only eat one food for the rest of my life, it would be rice in any form.
Rice.
Yes.
That's an interesting answer.
I like rice.
If I could swap jobs with anyone for a day.
If I could swap jobs with anyone for a day, it could be Gary V.
Wow. When I post this, I'll tag him. That's very interesting. I used to watch him a lot, like 2020, 2021. It's been a while actually. I think I watched him this year on content creation. He no bullshit, like he's just giving it to you straight.
Yeah. I used to watch Gary V like 2014 when he wrote like jab, right hook. most people didn't even know like Gary Vee existed at the time. But I used to watch him, and I was very consistent, and I kept going on and off. I'm watching him now again because I'm interested in his takes on where I think marketing is going.
Okay.
But just for context, I think Gary Vee is one end of a spectrum, and I like to balance it out with Mark Ritson.
Okay.
So look for Mark Ritson. He's a marketing professor, has worked with LVMH, some of the biggest brands. Yeah, they have very different opinions. So I like to watch the two of them.
Yeah.
But definitely Gary is my guy.
Do you have any book you recommend for the people watching? Maybe 2, 3?
Book I recommend. If you are, for everybody, try to read Atomic Habits if you haven't read it. I think it's a must read because habits run your life. So understand how that works. If you're a nerd, read Thinking Fast and Slow. It's about human psychology and how you make decisions. If you are interested in innovation and building very unique things and products, read 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. If you're also into innovation, read Demand Side Sales by Bob Moester. Demand Side Sales by Bob Moester. If you're curious about money, read I keep forgetting this, Morgan House, The Psychology of Money. So read The Psychology of Money. And there's another book. Is it The Millionaire Next Door? I'm not sure, but something, So yeah, on money, read those 2 books.
Design.
I actually don't have any design books.
Okay.
Yeah, so I haven't read a design book in a really long time. But I think Demand Side Sales.
Okay.
Because I think it talks about understanding customers' perspectives and creating things from that perspective. And I think that's something every designer should know how to do. Okay. So yeah, so if you're a designer, it's a weird book, but yeah, you should check that out.
I was going to ask you for your last words or advice, but one of my friends would say, if everything we said, you didn't take any advice, then please watch this episode again.
That's fair. We'll go with that.
Please watch it. Please tell them to subscribe.
Hey, subscribe to the channel. Great guests. Of course, I'm on here, so come on. Just hit subscribe. Unscripted with Raygan. Yeah, subscribe.
This was a lovely episode, Eldad. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me, bro.
We'll do this another time.
Hopefully.
All right, guys. We'll catch you in the next one.
Cheers.
Peace. They brought me a gift. Do you have a gift? Do you have a gift? All right, Charlie, let's roll. I hope this thing is showing. My new shirt. Yeah. You've not seen it.